What's going on, and welcome back, guys, to the first meta deck report in 2023, a series in which I cover the best top-tier, sweatiest decks in Marvel Snap. We've got over 13 infinite proven meta decks for you today, played by the best of the best, as January's meta is still wide open. Now, the recent addition of Zabu added some drastic changes as he supercharged 4-cost cards that flood a variety of different archetypes, bringing those cards out of the darkness into competitive play. Now, before we begin, as a quick reminder, the meta is usually aimed towards the tip of the spear, assuming you've got complete Pool 3 collections and access to some of the best cards in the game. And obviously, the majority of you guys don't have that. All of our collections are vastly different, so you'll see on today's graphics a good amount of replacement card options. Now, the primary spots will be reserved for the best in slot cards, but keep an eye out for the replacement symbol, as these cards can be swapped out for the replacement cards down towards the bottom of the graphics or with other options in your collection. Now, let's kick this report off with one of the sleeping giants found in the meta report, the Patriot Surfer. Patriot decks have been a cornerstone in the meta since launch, always seeming to improve month over month. The Silver Surfer supercharges the deck to create much more reliable power while still maintaining below 9 to consistently avoid the likes of Shang-Chi. This deck has loads of replacement options, with Cosmo near the top of the list to protect your ongoing cards from the likes of Enchantress and Rogue, and spending that extra turn playing Cosmo is fine because you've got Brood, Ultron, and Debris that are going to give you a mass amount of cards with easy power. In short, it's a jack of all trades deck, right? It's great against other combo decks and obviously the control disruption decks that are just plaguing the meta right now. For a full A to Z guide on how to play the Patriot, you can check up above. Now, next up is probably the safest deck to take up to infinite. It is the Sera Control, a Marvel Snap fan favorite. Now, this deceptive, powerful Sera deck aims to counter every other deck we'll talk about today with an explosive turn 6 finish and an answer for pretty much everything. You'll have steady power on all locations with scaling cards throughout the game, and as turn 6 arrives, you can either completely counter your opponent, who will usually go first with priority, or you can outpower them with Bishop, Nova, Killmonger, and Mysterio. Now, Mysterio is pretty damn important in today's deck. In fact, most of these cards serve a specific purpose. This will have the least flexible options out of all the other decks we look at today. Seriously, I cannot recommend this deck enough. If you're having a tough time climbing ranks with a combo-rich deck, or you find yourself keep on getting countered no matter what you play this reliable counter deck. And if you want to know the strategies and the best way to play, you can check up above again or down in the description below. Now, let's move on to a deck that has been on the rise month over month, seeing a huge jump and increase in its overall pick rate, the Zero Nuke. Now, this deck aims to overwhelm your opponent with its high power, multiple combos, and aggressive playstyle to net you plenty of cubes and wins. While this deck is rich in Pool 4 and 5 cards, you'll find plenty of replaceable options that work great as you aim to put enormous power on the board with either Red Skull, Typhoid, or Shuri in Black Panther combos, and then quickly take your opponent by surprise with either Arnim Zola or Taskmaster to spread the power love. Now, Zabu, Atuma, Black Panther can all be replaced with pretty much ease. Shuri can as well, but the deck performs a lot better at an elite level with her double power effect. Now, this being one of my most played and favorite decks in Snap, I covered everything that I've learned and mastered while playing the deck consecutively, and I put it all into one guide that you can see right here. Now, next up is a deck that gave the entire Marvel Snap community this feeling. Now, last month's report, we covered on day 1 the Leader and Leech deck that are the cancer cards of this game, and they're still in the meta for a reason. They disrupt, control, and cover a wide spread of decks that they can counter easily and beat with their green min arsenal. They are simply played with other great cards that can give you early initiative in order to control the game in the late turns. Thor and Maximus are the easier cards to replace with other value high power options like Wolfsbane or Swordmaster, whereas Leader, Arrow, and Magneto are the staple disruptors. Now, I'm going to judge you if you play this deck, but also, I get it. Now, players that are looking for a big brain deck with high IQ and plenty of decision making, Cerebro has found its way into the Marvel Snap meta. Cerebro 2, which I call the Bro, is a very accessible deck that, after some dedication to its playstyle and counters, you'll find it to be very consistent in your rank climbing. You have a wide array of cards that can work with its 2-power synergy, slotted with other win conditions. This is by far my favorite Cerebro deck this season. Most notably, Goose was essential in my Cerebro decks, but after Zabu creating all the cost reductions and him roaming free in the meta, Invisible Woman, Beast, or Luke Cage is the premier choice this season instead. Legit, I've never spent so much time on one video with strategies, turn-by-turn decisions, and then all the location counters as I did connected with Cerebro 2. And again, you can find that up above or down below. Now, joining Cerebro 2, a deck that is just as strong, but a little bit less accessible, we have Cerebro 3. Now, I love this deck, and I expect this to be flooding Marvel Snap's ranks as more people gain access to its more restricted cards, such as Valkyrie and Thanos. You can absolutely play other 3-power cards in its place and to plug into these other cards. However, this combo serves to be the most consistent with a variety of win conditions. Valkyrie will win a lane by herself with the combo of Thanos. You can use the Soul Stone with her to pretty much guarantee that lane win, or Cerebro for the high amount of power. We've got Rhino in the deck for bad locations, Adam Warlock for the card draws, Baes for the 3-power spreading, and Wasp in Yellow Jacket for the free play for Valkyrie. Truly, this deck is very hard to master, as there's a lot of things going on, but if you learn and perfect it, it's going to reward you with one of the most consistent options. Your opponent doesn't know what you're playing half the time anyway, and it can win without Cerebro. Obviously, the biggest con is it's flooded with pool 4 and 5 cards, but if you have it, use it. Now, next up, we have our Devil Dino deck this season that combines the power of Zabu, the kitty, with an overwhelming amount of pool 1 and 2 cards. Now, clearly, the 2 Devils and Leader deck that we had in the last meta report is still a great deck. Someone with the Season Pass, but a lower collection level, look to this deck for a powerful option that can take down even the best decks that Snap has to offer. Now, She-Hulk is entirely replaceable, as well as the other options that you can mix and match into the deck. Pulling Zabu makes this deck incredibly hard to beat with its counters and insane power. Or you can rely on Moon Girl and the Devil Dino She-Hulk nukes on turn 6. It's got multiple win conditions, it's versatile, accessible, and powerful. This deck has it all. The Zabzooka is a creation of Code Deco, and my gosh, this deck is insane. Now, this deck might be the best in Marvel Snap this season and sparks the conversation of a Pool 5 card that seems a bit too strong in Darkhawk. Darkhawk's absolutely chaotic value and combination with a steady curve of disruption cards that add to your opponent's hand, Zabu's cost reduction, and its ability to both control and spread overwhelming power is what has this deck at the top of the meta. Simply put, this deck bulldozes opponents with its powerful 4-drops, and Goose shuts down the lanes against the opponents while allowing us to play all of our cards with Zabu under him. We've got great draw, control, and power. I'll have a video on this deck in the coming days talking about Darkhawk, showcasing how crazy it is. It's one of the most consistent climbs, and yeah, it's a problem. Next, we move on to 2 Baes that continue to stay in the meta month over month. As new decks rise, this deck stays under the shadows as one of the most consistent winners in Snap. Nothing has changed about the way it bullies the opponent with a turn 5 wave and an explosive turn 6 control and power dominance. Destroy is meta-defining in Snap, and this deck still has that on full display. I've covered this deck extensively on this channel, and I've got multiple videos that I'll pin down below that you can check out. Discard lovers to the moon! The discard archetype is about to explode next month with its season pass, but it finds itself in the meta in January thanks to the Zabu and Ghost Rider synergy. Now, Lockjaw discard, there's still other great options out there, but this deck takes the casino playstyle away from discard and gives you a much more reliable meta deck that combines the top power cards in Snap with a very predictable card draw. Now, there isn't as much room for replacements as the other decks we talked about today, as it does require Zabu, but if you have them, enjoy them. It's got a great mix of power, and this thing slaps.
Kneel before Galactus.
Now, odds are you have heard those 3 menacing words as you have tried to climb ranks this season. Galactus decks are becoming more dependable, reliable, and surprising as the card creation grows in the new Galactus archetype. Now, the shelf for this deck is very straightforward. In fact, if Galactus is the only card you have, you can easily play the deck with no other pool 4 or 5 cards, but it is the definition of just growing much stronger as you unlock more powerful options with the addition of Valkyrie and Null. Now, this right here is the best deck for Galactus, although there are multiple other options that you can run. My most recent video displays exactly how crazy these decks are in the multitude of options, even after Galactus's nerf. All right, guys, we're going to end today's deck list with 2 more decks. We have the Sera Surfer that was December's Elite. Now, it still finds itself amongst the highest win rate decks in Snap. Simply put, these are the cards you should use in the deck with a multitude of different options that you can plug in. The deck is damn near impossible to counter if you do not have your combos, or other win conditions, it's probably best to just retreat. You've got tech cards, you have counters, you have enormous power. This deck is not going anywhere for the months to come. Now let's end today's list with our Beat the Meta staple free-to-play deck in Spectrum Destroyer. Meta months come and go, but this deck is deemed Mr. Consistent as it is only getting better with the addition of Zabu to build as an option, and you can combine that with things like Sandman for control, or the other new pool 4 and 5 cards for extra power. It's a very straightforward, quick winning, and easy strategy deck that you can learn and master. If you want to know the ins and outs and how to play it, you can check up above. All in all, this month was pretty damn crazy for the meta, and it's the last one before the tournament competitive play starts, and that's going to drastically change next month's February's meta report, as well as my future of competitive videos. If you don't want to miss those and you want to support me as a creator, and most importantly, you hate Leader as much as I do, click the red subscribe button down below, as over 70% of you guys that watch my daily content aren't subscribed. And I can't tell you how much that helps me make more videos just like this one. If you're looking for today's graphics that you would like to save on your phone and use for later, I'll be posting them all on my Twitter or into my Discord if you want to go ahead and join those. Put those down in the description below. And if you like today's format, be sure to like today's video. Good luck climbing up the ranks, and until then, happy snapping.